And it says we're live. And here we go. Oh, I cannot wait till we actually have videos and stuff that we can put along with this so people can see our ugly mugs in animated form instead of just listening to us.
Yes, and then we drive them away even faster.
Yes.
Have you know I'm ruggedly handsome.
Emphasis on the rugged part.
Oh,
I'm carpetly handsome.
we're going to try some new stuff.
Shag
Well,
carpet.
the only thing we're trying new today is to keep the show short and manageable, like a good haircut. We're going to wash this show with Pantene. We'll give it some body, and it'll be manageable.
Just as long as we don't use Prel.
I think we need to have on the logo, there needs to be this just, flowing, luxurious locks behind it.
I cannot wait.
Look like the avatar for PC Master Race.
Sure.
Well, the logo is going to transform. We're going to have Mega Geek as one of our mascots.
So in other words, we're going to give the logo John Romero hair. They're talking about giving the logo long flowing locks. I was saying, so we're going to give it John Romero hair?
Nah, Chris Hemsworth.
We just can't wash it, bro. But on that note, we'll be back in 60 seconds. Right now.
The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. The opinions expressed do not reflect this station or any affiliated partners. Listener discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Geek Easy.
Just talking? Well, what's the show about? It's about nothing.
Hey kids, have you ever driven a popular video game franchise so bad into the ground that your studio closed?
That's an interesting way to start off.
I'm curious. Go on.
So am I.
BioWare Montreal, who, made Mass Effect and Andromeda. Yeah, they don't exist anymore. They were absorbed. But this is the thing. They weren't absorbed by another one of the BioWare studios. They were absorbed by an EA studio.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's just going to make it 10 times worse.
So, yeah.
That makes me concerned that they'll actually just absorb all of BioWare. This has happened before. I think there's been past Star Wars games where companies had worked on them and then they got absorbed and then by some other bigger company, and it just went straight to crap.
Well,
is BioWare in trouble?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious, because,
Mass Effect Andromeda was a pretty big flop, all things considered.
Then again, look at the Namco Bandai. They merged, and no one thought they would.
Well, now I will point this out: the studio they're being merged with is also located in Montreal, and both studios were owned by EA.
Very interesting, I say.
The two other primary BioWare studios are still working on their own thing. One's working on Anthem, and the other one's still working on Old Republic.
Now,
or as I like to call it,
curious,
give us money.
if EA were to absorb them, that would give them all of the Star Wars licenses.
They already have the licenses.
Yes, I know, but they don't have the license for online gaming that way.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
why.
Yeah, they do.
I thought it was a BioWare game.
EA,
EA.
owns BioWare.
Oh,
So they have all the licenses regardless.
I do. Okay.
Now, the studio that they're merging BioWare Montreal with is currently working on the single-player portion of Battlefront 2.
Interesting.
Oh, as a side note for our one listener. Oh, wait, lost the listener. Anyway, for those who listen to this to the fact, have us a guest. Not Jim. Jim decided to take a vacation from us. Yeah.
Jim's taking a
Captain
vacation
Arthur
from life, I
Owens.
gather. No, he's... Jim, if you're listening, hi.
Greetings.
We miss you.
Yes, we have Captain Arthur Owens, who will use his dulcet Scottish tones to speak to Geek to you.
Dulcet, that's a new one, lots.
And we've lost any potential Scottish listeners.
Hey,
So-
that's not the way to start it off right from the bat.
And Ian McKellen is here.
Do
Ian
it, do it.
Ian McKellen?
Ian
What?
McKellen. No, Ian McKellen would be...
I am trying to improve the accent, so tips are welcomed.
Run,
Oh.
run, you fools.
I don't know why, but I have lost the ability to speak.
I think you were saying Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor,
Ah, yes.
but
Ian McKellen's a completely
Ian
different direction.
McKellen.
Yes, Ian McKellen. I think he's a little older and a little more homosexual.
Just a little.
Just a little bit. He's fabulous.
Fabulous.
I mean- Interesting. Ewan
Actually-
McGregor in Star Trek.
I think it should happen. Honestly,
should
I
happen.
think we should swap it. Have Ewan McGregor show up in Star Trek and William Shatner show up in Star Wars.
Shatner has to be involved. Now that Carrie Fisher has passed on, he has to at least make an appearance just for the sake of... Yes. Bury the hatchet, as it would be. Even though they had a great relationship and they just bounced stuff off each other and stuff, they really didn't. It wasn't that it was all in jest. Everything they did.
They love each other.
Yes.
I still love the fact that I got a response out of him when I mentioned Star Wars got bought, so now Carrie Fisher or Princess Leia has become much more powerful than you could possibly imagine, and he replied with a much more imaginary.
Well, speaking of Princess Leia, I'm guessing that they are writing her out of the story in a glorious fashion.
One would hope so.
According
you can't
to
just not do something like that. You can't just be like, oh, she retired.
yeah, I guess who plays Finn? Why can't I think? John Boyega, and a few other interviews and
John
blurbs.
Boy.
They say they are writing her. I think they're writing her out of episode 8. I think he said in 8 they write her out to where the writing her out fits the character in a very moving way. They won't give you details, but I'm gonna guess that she's gonna force ghost it.
So, no tripping and falling into a trash compactor?
God, I hope not.
Last thing you hear from her is, not again.
Oh, speaking of Force Ghosts, I'm totally running with the headcanon that the character Han Solo would appear as a Force Ghost, kind of, try and feel his physical form, then look at his hands, go, oh great, now what?
I'm of the same opinion, but I think he will appear as a hallucination.
For Kylo?
For Kylo, yeah. For Kylo.
Or a flashback.
Not a flashback, but more of a kind of like the Dennis Leary did in this Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he was just there and Spider-Man kept seeing him, even though he wasn't really there.
I think they should go the Robot Chicken route, and instead of Jar Jar as a Force Ghost, it should just be Han as a Force Ghost bugging Kylo.
I want my family back.
Did you brush your teeth? It's your mother's birthday. Have you called her?
There are a lot of people speculating that Kylo, by the end of Episode 8, will have switched sides.
Based on what, though?
Exactly. I'm like, what are you basing this on, and why would you think that? What are they going to do? Have Snoke as the bad guy?
I mean, the only real basis for that was the fact that he admitted that he feels the pull of the light, and that
Mm-hmm.
and then that runs on the continued hypothesis of Han Solo activating the lightsaber, not Kylo Ren. But that's a stretch in my opinion. But then again, I'm a Trekkie.
That's a commonly held headcanon that Han actually was the one who's activated it, but we still have no actual proof of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can't define myself when it comes to Trekkie versus Star Wars. Everything I take, every one of those little, it's like, are you a Trek fan or a Star Trek fan? Every time I take one of those, I'm always more on the Star Wars side. But I guess I'm a Warzer. Star Wars and Trek are at the same
Warhead?
time. Warhead, something.
Oh, for me, I grew up with Star Trek. I grew up watching TNG, DS9, Enterprise when I was in college when that was coming out. But I really got into it. I just wasn't able to get as deep into the lore, tech spec, etc. of Star Wars the way I did with Star Trek. That's why I say I'm a Trekkie.
That's a good reason, though. If it spoke to you in a way, that's awesome. I mean, I'm older. I'm the oldest guy in the room right now because Jim's not here. So, I grew up on Star Wars. Star Trek was reruns of the original series when I was a kid, but Star Wars was brand new. I was 4 years old when it was released. I was 5 when I finally got to see it. So I grew up with it. That was what I grew up with. By the time the next generation came around, I was already in high school. So it was different. It wasn't something. I watched them. I own every movie. I got the original series on Blu-ray, and it's not like I'm like, oh, Star Trek sucks. But they hold two different places in my life. Star Wars being the one that got me doing what I want to do. I saw Star Wars and I was like, I'm gonna be the guy that makes monsters. I'm gonna be the guy that designs this and creates this. I want to be that guy. Star Trek never did that, but Star Trek's technology and the way they do their stuff is also a push in that kind of way. Because I don't watch those. I watch the first time for the film. But every time I watch after that, it's usually to see all the cool little stuff they do. Story always came first, though, in Star Trek. Whereas Star Wars, it was the whole package. The story. If the story in Star Trek sucked, Star Trek sucked. Well, I guess it's the same Star Wars because you got the prequel.
Look at Rogue One. The characters are very flat, not very well defined, and at least in my circles, I'm seeing a lot of people saying, Rogue One really wasn't that good. Now I'm rewatching it on Netflix.
Really? I have seen Rogue One at least 24 times now. I've watched it, and it's got watchability for me just like the original Star Wars film. It's like, because it ties in so nicely.
I agree. It has watchability, but it doesn't grab me the way like Episode 4 still does to this day.
No, it's a different rewatchability.
Or even The Force Awakens. That really, every time I watch it, that grabs me. Rogue One,
That's funny. I would say that rewatchability, Rogue One has more of it than The Force Awakens, in my opinion.
Interesting. But you said you like the monster, so you're a makeup artist, I gather?
I did, yes. That's what I went to school for. That's what I did for the beginning of my career. Then I moved on to toys, and now I just design things and make stuff for games.
Nice. Well, then, I'd like your opinion.
Yes.
We know that Suicide Squad got the accolade for best makeup over, which, in my opinion, I didn't see Suicide Squad, but the fact that they got the makeup over Star Trek, which had 50
it was a travesty.
Different aliens.
Yeah, it was a travesty.
Yeah, you won't find any of us that disagree with you on that one.
Most of the makeup artist people I have talked to are in agreement on that one. It's like, how did Suicide... how did they win that? They had one major prosthetic character, and everything else was just beauty makeup and stuff. There wasn't anything over the top. And I mean, they did a really good job on Killer Croc. He was extremely well done. But when you compare that to everything they did in Star Trek, I mean, there was a monstrous amount of alien work. The sculptures and I mean, it was just the amount of makeup. Sometimes the award is given to someone who pushes the boundaries and does something new. I have no idea on that end, but I'm going to guess the way that Star Trek aliens were done, I would have said Star Trek would have got it for best makeup. They should.
I agree. I felt like they were robbed because there were, one, just the sheer amount of makeup, the fact that there were 50 different aliens to represent the 50th anniversary of the franchise compared to, and you know, especially the one that looked like it evolved from a Nautilus. That was such a remarkable piece.
Yes. Who was it? Totopoulos that designed? Was he still the designer for those? I don't know. I don't know who did the makeup on it. That's really sad. I don't know who did the makeup on Suicide Squad either. But yeah, Suicide Squad winning the Academy Award, that is not a sentence you should be putting together. Because that movie did not deserve that award any way, shape, or form. Not against Star Trek. And yeah, that was ridiculous.
I mean, I respect the people that like Suicide Squad, but it just was not, in my opinion, it really, you know, I haven't seen it. I have no desire to see it, and even the box office said it wasn't that great.
No, the director's cut's better. If you're ever gonna watch it, make sure you watch the director's cut.
That's fair. I mean, I do want to give it a shot. It's just I just didn't really feel a draw to it. Then again, I grew up with Batman the Animated Series, so to me, that's always going to be Harley Quinn. Kind of like your first Miyazaki film. Whatever your first Miyazaki film is, that's your favorite Miyazaki film 9 times out of 10.
To be honest, she was a pretty good highlight in that film. Margot Robbie did a good job in that role.
She did.
Good to know.
She made it her own. She took Harley Quinn, and there's a blend of animated series, what they've done in the books. Yeah, she did a good job at the role. Some of the other stuff just falls flat, but it wasn't a great film. It was rushed. You could see that there was a lot of hands stirring that soup, and had they just now that Jeff Johns is in charge of DC's movies, hopefully it'll streamline things a little bit, kind of like Marvel has one guy. They have Kevin Feige, and everything goes through him, and it all kind of has to meander from there. Whereas the DC films were all over the place. They had Zack Snyder, they had this guy, and then all the corporate heads saying, well, this is and that and this, and they try to put a movie together by committee, and you can't do that. But now that we're talking aliens and we're talking all that stuff, there's a whole lot of new aliens that we're going to be seeing in all different types of, in both Star Trek and Star Wars coming up. Star Wars, they have yet to touch on any of the known aliens aside from the Moncals and the Celestians, with Nine Numb, but I'm guessing for episode 8, there's going to be a whole slew of new aliens yet again, with no touches to any of the Rhodians or the Thorians or any of the other ones, and I'm kind of getting...
Bothans?
There's nobody. From what I'm getting, it's all new aliens, kind of like they did for the Maz's Cantina, and I was kind of put off by that there was no familiar faces at all. And now they're going to do it again. I'm like, how do you have Star Wars without a Rhodian in the background? I mean, are there no...
a Rhodian without a Twi'lek?
Yeah. Well, they had Twi'leks, I think, in Maz's castle. But there were none of the faces that were familiar. It's like, Trandoshans, and is that how you say it?
Trandoshans?
Trandoshans.
Trandoshan. And it's like, those, you could, even if they're just background, and the way the director, what's his name? Who's directing 8? Ryan, why can't I think of it? Ryan Johnson? Whatever, the guy who was directing it said there was a reason for it, that this is the aliens we will see are like the upper crust of the galaxy, and they're very posh and to do. I'm like, so what? There are no well-to-do Rhodians?
There were in Rebels.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like I'm sticking with the Rhodians because it's one of my favorite alien designs in Star Wars. And it was just like I mean, even though they were kind of cheesy looking with the rubber like spikes on the top of their head and stuff, it's still one of those that it makes it Star Wars when you see one of them. That's why they're all over Rebels in the background. But then you take the flip side, and now we have new Klingons, which we have yet to really talk about on the show.
We didn't really have much of the way to look at.
No, but now we do. I don't have any images, and honestly, I don't want to put any images up of either one. I could have thrown some images up from Star Wars, but every site that has had them, aside from one that I know of, has got the cease and desist from Lucasfilm, so I'm not going to push anybody's buttons by showing photographs on the show right now. And the same with CBS. CBS cracks down real hard on that stuff for some reason, even though they released it.
Unfortunate. It really is.
They're the ones who released it.
It's like, yeah, you have it on your press site. Why can't I show it? Last time I did that, we got nailed with the copyright, so I'm not doing it again.
Probably because there's people, trolling.
Well, they have an algorithm and all that kind of stuff. Either way, I'm not gonna push the envelope. I mean, everybody who's a geek and would listen to us and knows this has seen these images. They've seen this stuff for the trailers and the Klingons, and I guess Brian Fuller. Stuff has come out over the past week where Brian Fuller's original pitch for the show and all this kind of stuff has come to light as to what he wanted. And I guess one of the things he wanted was to stir the pot when it came to the Klingons and dive even deeper into their biology, into their history and all of it, and kind of mix it up a little bit. And it's got a lot of people up in arms. It's like, those aren't Klingons. Look at them. They're bald. They got the big thing. It's like, blah, 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 blah. And then you have other people, like we were talking before the show, who are like, yeah, I'm digging it. I don't know. So, what do you guys think? Are they Klingons? Are they not Klingons? Are we gonna have to?
Well, they got the head ridges.
They're still sticking to the idea that they keep using this term Klingon torchbearer.
Yes.
So that makes me think that most of the ones we've seen so far are probably precursor Klingons. Because we do know in the lore the Klingons were invaded by the Hurk. And I think that these are probably Klingons that, left right after that.
So almost like an offshoot branch like the Romulans are to the Vulcans, is what you're saying.
By the way, Jim is listening to us from Florida right now.
Kinda, sorta.
I'm pretty sure he is listening to us.
Oh, he is. He is. He's in the chat in YouTube. My own, like, again, the more I see of it and the more I hear, a lot of people took what I think it was Kurtzman had to say about the timeline of this show, and that it's not based on the JJ verse, the alternate universe, the kill as it is. But it's placed in an area where familiar faces will be able to interact. That's still not saying it's the prime timeline.
True, but precluding that it's not the JJ verse, mostly indicates a shift back more towards the primary timeline. But if that's the case, then the technology in the uniforms have gone askew.
Well,
because it should still be the independent ship icons as it was in the original series if it's prime timeline. The fact that they're saying
we
one
had
thing,
a very
but
conversation about that last week.
Mm-hmm.
There was a memo.
Shameless plug for it will come up soon as soon as final approval on the edit. We talked with Doug Drexler about Star Trek Discovery, and a few other things that we will be placing up on our YouTube channel. I'll probably drop it on the Twitch channel as well, because we can do that now. You can drop pre-recorded videos and stuff in there. Pretty sweet. So keep an eyeball out for that. But we got into that, and if I'm not mistaken, Doug's initial thing was that's very superficial stuff. It's the story. They don't get the story right. the superficial of what things look like
Yeah,
isn't going to
Doug
matter.
very much was not worried about the look of things.
Yes. And speaking as someone who made Star Trek, one of the guys that made Star Trek look like it did for 30 some odd years, if he's not too worried about it, again, he was very strong about if the story isn't done right, if they don't acknowledge it as a history, and that there's history involved, and you can't just make things up here, because where you put this show, if you make it up, you're going to lose people very quickly, lose fans, and it will. The fears everyone have been having on it will have come to pass. And the more
Absolutely.
the more
But to
I
me,
hear. Go ahead.
to me, the look is part of the lore and the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Enterprise made sense in that fashion because they tried to replicate more of a pre-TOS style tech. They didn't really introduce too many new races because that wasn't the right thing to do. Because they were just trying to establish how the Federation came to be. And I like how they kind of went between an astronaut work suit plus, a little more future tech, but not quite TOS uniform. But it made sense in that fashion. They started to introduce the colors while they kept more of a function over form style to the uniform.
Now, this is something else that has come out is Brian Fuller. His original idea first was an anthology where it wouldn't be just one ship. It would be different stories that were told season after season, very much like American Horror Story. I guess they didn't go that way. They went with a more soap opera style, and they're going to keep it. They said it's going to be even more operatic and stuff than DS9 was. But which kind of makes me go, oh yeah, because Star Trek was great because it was a new story every single week, and it wasn't the same story that. I mean, DS9 did a good. When they realized they were losing people with it, they would throw in a filler story or something different just to break the mood, and they did a good job with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I read about that, and that Brian Fuller originally wanted the original colors on the uniforms, and he had more of a make it look like Star Trek look to it, which the more things have been come out about Fuller's leaving and the butting of heads that happened at the corporate level, that again, Discovery is a corporate production and not a person's vision of what it should be. And that's why it looks the way it does, and the way they're doing it. They're trying to catch lightning in a bottle, I would think.
At the same time, if it doesn't really align with Gene Roddenberry's thoughts and mission, and how he produced Star Trek, the feel of Star Trek, if you understand my meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Then the question must be asked, is it really Star Trek at that point, if it is not all of those things?
Don't forget, though, Next Gen didn't find its footing till they flushed a bunch of Roddenberry stuff.
True.
But it still had the feel, it still had the morals, it still had the lessons.
Yes.
The thing is, when you go, but it's still, you really are missing the point. Most of Generation, all of Deep Space Nine, all of Voyager, all of Enterprise, were not Gene Roddenberry's baby.
No, they weren't.
Gene Roddenberry was pushed out long ago. So when all of us go,
dude.
Well, it's not just that. Even during Next Generation,
We have to remember part of the reason that season 1 of Next Generation is so bad is Roddenberry pushed this idea that there would be no conflict between crew members.
True.
The thing a lot of people, a lot of us fans of Star Trek constantly say Gene Roddenberry's vision. Unfortunately, the Star Trek we love is not Gene Roddenberry's vision. Granted, Gene Roddenberry's primary vision, as Adam will often say, was dollar signs.
Chess.
But the Star Trek that we love was not what Gene Roddenberry wanted to create, but it is what he ended up creating.
And it took a life.
And telling almost like a 20th century Aesop's fables
But
kind
if
of
you
a deal.
think about that,
And exploring with social
Star
commentary.
Trek's really not always been that. Even back in the original series, there was a lot of conflict.
Oh, I never said it was without conflict.
We don't know what we're going to see out of Discovery yet.
Good point.
We haven't. Trailers are always cut, especially in this day and age, to emphasize action. If there's 3 minutes of action in a movie and there's a 3-minute trailer, you're going to see 2 minutes of that action in that trailer.
True. Now, I laugh because we have been trying to steer clear of this. We touched on it with our interview with Doug. Make sure you listen to it when it comes up in the next couple of days. But there was a statement during a press conference recently, very recently, that the showrunners of Discovery put out, and one of the terms or things said was, "This is a time of war." And we have to deal with that as to what they're going on. Now, they've introduced the fact that it's going to be Klingons. It's a time of war set 10 years before the original series. And then there was the little fan film that CBS sued that was doing a story about a little war between the Federation and Klingons 10 years or so before the original series. So, those who are still following the Axanar thing, whether you are pro Axanar or against Axanar, there is now this brought to the table that I'm sure many people will go, well, this is why they sued, because it's a war story between the Klingons and the Federation. I thought that was interesting. It raised my eyebrows. I was like, huh. Huh.
Didn't they originally say they weren't dealing with the war?
Yes. But that's when Brian Fuller was still.
So we got JJ'd again.
You mean not conned again?
It's the same thing.
The big thing about this is Star Trek has only pulled off one war story in its 50 years and made it worth watching.
DS9. The Dominion War.
Did the Dominion War for 3 seasons.
Oh, and we need to talk about that fan trailer.
Well, we saw the Temporal Cold War on Enterprise.
Okay, the Temporal Cold War and the Xindi arc. An entire season of a war story, basically. And it was the weakest of the seasons of Enterprise. Trying to think, whenever there is a major conflict kind of thing outside of the films, the original series never pulled anything more than a 2-episode arc. The Borg stuff, what'd they do? It was a 2-episode arc originally, and I think they touched on them a couple more times on the Next Generation, but it wasn't all out war.
Well, you had the whole Sela arc.
What, with the Kazon on Voyager?
No.
The Romulan thing. But that was still a two-part episode, wasn't it?
It was short.
It was short. They didn't drag it out.
Well, no, there's more of an arc than that because she appears a few times.
But Star Trek and war, even though war is part of the human, that was one of the things we touched on with Doug, is Roddenberry was all about the human condition, and it was a reflection of the human condition told in science fiction form. And war is a part of the human condition. It's for some reason we're really good at killing each other. But
true.
The pulling it off correctly in Star Trek, again, they've only done it once. Because Deep Space Nine is the best of the series. It really is. When it comes to writing and stuff, it really does fall at the top of the tier of the Next Generation era series.
If you can get past seasons 1 and 2.
Even 2 had its highlights. 1 was pretty rough.
Sounds like we're talking about TNG again.
Yeah, well, again, as much as I loathe Voyager, Voyager hit the ground running compared to the other series. They were the only one of the post film original cast series that when their pilot episode and their original episode, they were their characters. It was as if they had been playing them already. Whereas the next generation and Deep Space Nine, there was a lot of character finding going on.
I like Voyager. I mean, I'm not going to say it's great by any means, but I think what Voyager was an attempt to, okay, this is Star Trek. We've got to have ties to the Federation and whatnot, but we just want to do things completely differently. So let's take one Federation ship and send it somewhere we've never been before.
And but they still had their hands tied with that aspect of Star Trek. It was a Federation vessel. Even though Janeway broke the Prime Directive, I think more than anybody else in any of the known history of Star Trek.
She pushed that line.
Picard pushed the line a lot.
They think they both pushed the line, but they didn't actually openly break it.
Whereas Kirk openly broke it time and again.
Picard has a whole movie that is him essentially breaking the Prime Directive.
What, the Insurrection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
actually,
but really, because they're a warp. They're a warp.
But
capable race.
he didn't. When he made the decision to go down there, he didn't know that they were a technological people.
Even if you are taking the fact that they were a warp-capable species, had they not asked, it would have still been a violation of the Prime Directive.
How? See, I don't know. They were not native to that planet.
At the same time, the culture had already been contaminated. They had already found Federation and Sona officers.
Except that it wasn't contaminated
damage
at all.
done, so one or two more people isn't really going to...
The Prime Directive does not state specifically just pre-warp cultures. It is interfering with the internal affairs of any culture. And as a result, insurrection was not a violation of the Prime Directive on Picard's part.
He was actually setting it straight.
Someone else had already broken the Prime Directive and screwed
Data
us.
did.
He was creating it. Or he was correcting the problem.
That's right, because that's why they couldn't... At first, they couldn't provide...
It wasn't even data. It was the Admiral and the Sona.
In the episode of TNG where those rebels have that subspace transporter, that's why the Federation is only providing medical assistance initially, because it would be a violation of the Prime Directive, even though this is a warp culture that they trade with, to get involved more than that. It only stops becoming a violation when Federation personnel are kidnapped.
You know, talking with Doug the other day, I just realized that Voyager and Enterprise both did a moral episode in the same vein with the Trip clone, as well as Tuvix. Tuvix.
Do we really want to talk about Tuvix?
Dude, that episode is horrific. The fact that an entire crew of people could sit there and watch a sentient being murdered because they wanted their two friends back. That was messed up. I'm sorry. They killed a person. And I would not have made that call. I would have been like, you know what? No. You are what has happened, and to kill you to bring back these other two characters would be a violation on a moral and an ethical it's a violation of ethics.
You realize though, episode wise, it's just an inversion of the one they did in the original series.
What's worse though is what we know about how transporter technology works is it would have been possible for them to get Tuvok and Neelix back and keep Tuvix.
Yes.
Well, supposedly, with what we know about transporter technology, you can basically become immortal as long as you save a pattern from when you're young.
To a point.
To a point.
Pattern has to stay above 50%.
Yes, it has to. If it's running through the buffer, it has to maintain at least
No,
51.
you just need the trace pattern. That's how they de-age Pulaski.
They used her hair.
Yeah, but originally they were looking for her trace pattern, which is not a fully stored pattern.
Either way, it was a messed up episode. The Trip one was on the same vein. That was an ethical line that was crossed. That was like, I mean, even Phlox, as a doctor, should have been like, you know what? Wait a second. What are we doing? He's a doctor. He had to take an oath not to harm.
Well, I don't know if Denobulans have that oath or not.
Yes, but the Federation does.
They weren't
there was
in
no
the
Federation.
That's true. Never mind. But
was
you would
no
think a
Federation.
Hippocratic oath would still be in effect somewhere along that line.
No, because if I remember correctly, doesn't that come up at some point that Phlox's oath requires him to step in and do things whether the patient wants it or not or something?
Possibly.
There is
Either
a
way.
doctor that they encounter where the oath is flipped like that.
Yeah, it's ethically it's just like you're killing somebody to help somebody else. It's not that yeah. The Tuvix episode still to this day makes me so mad. Just the way they all sat there on the bridge and just gave him that look like, yeah, screw you, dude. I was like, that is so messed up, you bunch of gold bastards, you. Oh, sorry. Now I'm all upset. Screw Voyager. It's the 7 of 9 show. She was the ultimate Mary Sue.
Definitely skirting that line.
We're stuck. What do we do? Give it 7 of 9. She'll figure it out in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, except that she had failed. There were many times she failed. If she was a true Mary Sue, she'd never fail. Ever.
That's true. But when she did fail, it was like a blow to her. That was just like, oh dear Lord, what am I going to do now? I am bored. I do not fail. Maybe had they let the series run a little longer, things would have got. I don't know. I just wish Enterprise had it this season.
I did want to see the upgraded NX.
But I mean, again, it's been talked about. I mean, Doug talked about it. Other people have talked about it. Every Star Trek series since the Next Generation, even the films, people didn't like the films because you're changing things.
You have to change.
Yeah, changes. Young minds, fresh ideas. Be tolerant. Come on, no one's going to take that next line? If my grandmother
I'm in
had wheels,
combat
she'd
on
be a wagon.
STO.
No, that wasn't the next line. That was the previous line.
Oh,
Yes,
it
it was.
is, yes. I hear she's supposed to have transwarp drive. And if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon. That's right.
Funny thing
I'll
is
be a
that it's
shack.
because of his work on the refit for the Enterprise. That's how they built the Excelsior.
Excelsior! Whoops, wrong fandom.
Yes. Well, since you brought that fandom up, you have an image I can show. We'll see what happens. Not much on the way of Marvel films, but Fox's mutant films. Deadpool 2 has started shooting, and Ryan Reynolds I guess he was the first one to drop it, and other people followed suit. Domino has been revealed. And I'm going to show an image, and then we can talk about that. That's Domino, for those watching the stream. No, I do love the presentation of her laying on the Deadpool rug. But maybe it's the
And
hair.
it's a huge butt.
No, she's nicely shaped.
Well, I'm just trying to say what's something that Deadpool might say.
Oh, yes.
Because if you pay attention to Deadpool, he's got quite the fascination with Domino.
Yes.
I don't think we've heard any jokes about Bay Arthur, though.
No, not enough.
His
BS.
one true love.
A couple of
Next to the other ones.
chimichanga things thrown in. I don't know. I mean, costume-wise, yeah, it's Domino. Maybe it's the hair. I guess I'm used to seeing Domino with that straight ebony hair. I don't know.
And
The
just
afro's
walking
throwing
around,
me.
and just walking around that elephant in the room.
Yes. Well, the elephant in the room is it's difficult to criticize the look when the actress portraying is of I guess she's African American. So I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying that's not Domino, and the response has been, well, now you're just being racist. Like, they could have used this actress. I mean, the idea is that she's a mutant. She's not a human being. She's not a Homo sapien. She's a Homo superior. So
I will say though, it kind of works, and I can see how, or why they may have gone with it, because now that's representation for folks who have that kind of condition, i.e.,
true.
Michael Jackson.
Well, it's what they gave. What's the two different color eye thing called? Because Domino doesn't have that in the comic.
I don't know, honestly.
I don't remember what that's called. She's got one. It's almost a yellowish eye, yellow green, and it's honestly, it's like they took the character of Domino and inverted the colors.
Well, yeah,
It's not a bad look.
That's why I was like, I don't have a problem with it.
I guess if they get the character right and she's written right, because Domino is the anti-Deadpool technically. She works with him, but it's like a love-hate relationship. And he is fascinated with Domino.
As a side note, that was the real Ryan Reynolds down there.
That is not.
It totally is.
Dude, it's all flattened out.
Well, see, they beef him up a lot in the films after, he's actually not that big.
So he gets the
I do love the
reverse Captain
presentation.
America
Yes.
treatment.
Yes. He's all thin and skinny.
He's nothing but skin and bones.
Still one of the best visual effects in the Marvel Universe films. That was so well done.
What's that?
We're gonna have to. I have to. The Captain America or the Super Serum, the skinny. I mean, the fact that it's Chris Evans.
It was Chris Evans the entire time in that size. He managed to, swap.
Yes,
rather
they did
effectively
such
well.
a good job.
It was a good transition. Camera tricks.
Now I'm curious as to how much the change on Domino, and I mean, again, I don't know how much. I mean, visually they changed it. I don't know how much they've changed the character outside of that. But with the loss of the original director, because he walked away, the guy who directed Deadpool, he's not directing the second one. And I know Ryan Reynolds had said himself he wants to stick to as close to the comic books as possible, and Deadpool did that. It really was like a comic book. The comic brought to the screen. So I'm hoping that the way that she's written and stuff, you can overlook the afro, and I don't know. I gotta see her in action. See what happens. I know, it just looks
speaking
lazy.
Of action for my birthday movie,
Yes.
I went and saw Atomic Blonde.
Don't
And
spoil it.
I'm not going to spoil anything. Trust me. I'm not going to spoil anything. The action was amazing. I enjoyed the movie overall. I just will say I think some people will take issue with the ending. But
Now, I think it's funny. I went and saw Dunkirk the night you went and saw that.
I did see Dunkirk.
And my wife, when we were walking into the theater, she saw the poster for it. She goes, "Oh, that's Charlize Theron kicking ass, right?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh." It's like, "Why? You want to go see that instead? We can change the tickets. They're showing like 10 minutes apart." She's like, "No, I want to see Dunkirk too."
So it's
We're gonna
more
have
like
to go
kind of
see
like
Atomic Blonde.
John Wick, it seems, but
Yes.
only without the dog getting killed.
Stupid dog.
The dog was a puppy. You can't do that to the. You
Wolfie,
can't,
on a scale, give it at 1 to 5. What do you give it?
Probably a 3.75, but that could go up if I rewatch it. Because I may go see it again, trying to look for signs of certain things. It's a fun movie. I did, especially if you like hard-hitting action, it's very fun. And I will say they do a good job of avoiding the whole thing of like the invincible main character and everything. They show the after effects of her fights and all that.
So she gets hurt.
Oh yeah.
I think that's why I like the new Bond, because he gets hurt when he does things. He gets cut, he gets bruised, unlike every other James Bond that walked away with like a perfectly coiffed hair and all that.
I mean, she's basically a walking bruise by the end of the movie.
Sweet.
You actually see her a couple of times get into a bathtub filled with ice.
Well, I definitely want to see it. I would say you gotta go see Dunkirk, dude.
I want to see Dunkirk, but like I said, there's a few rough spots in the movie. That's part of the reason I want to rewatch it and see if I've missed hints on things. I didn't realize it's technically a comic book movie.
Yes.
Or a manga movie or whatever. I didn't realize that. It's good. The action is really good. It's well acted. I do think there's some flaws, but I can't really touch on them if you haven't seen it, and I'm not doing spoilers.
Okay.
But please go see it so I can actually talk to somebody about it.
Okay. Well, it'd probably be a couple of days.
Like, honestly, that's the biggest endorsement I can give for it is me personally, at least, I want to talk about it after seeing it. So I'm going to recommend people to see it so that I can talk to them about it.
If you're gonna put it up again, I mean, is it John Wick like? Is it Kingsman like? Is it James Bond like? Is it all of them wrapped into one?
There's supposed to be kind of a spy thriller plot running through it, and there is, but it's very action-packed. There is a hint of some of what she's doing is revenge, but it's very Bondish in certain ways. The character is apparently Actually, I don't know if the character's actually fluid in her sexuality. She may just be into women, and the other thing is just, oh, she knew the guy, not that they were in a relationship. I don't know.
I do kind of want to see it.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen the trailers and all the. I was like, I want to see it. I like beat 'em up films, and I like Charlize Theron is a good actress. So.
Oh, she's very good in this. It is a good movie for the most part. I just didn't like the twist involved with the ending.
With the twist?
You know what's funny? You can talk about Dunkirk, and I don't think you could really spoil the film.
Well, it's historical.
Well, we know we know what happened.
That's like all those people that got upset when they found out the Titanic sank before seeing the movie.
Really?
That's just a failure to pay attention to history.
Dunkirk. There were parts of it that blew me away. I was just like, I was expecting more of a war film. I will say that if you're going in expecting like Saving Private Ryan, something like that, you're not gonna get it.
No, I felt it was cut rather strangely. Personally, it was a little confusing.
It was confusing.
The other thing I will say on my movie-going experience is The Darkest Hour, the Gary Oldman, Winston Churchill movie.
Looks good.
There was something in that trailer that just hit me. Like there was. I don't know if it's just Oldman as Churchill giving the speech that he gives in the trailer or what, but it just
I have to go watch the trailer.
I saw it in front of Dunkirk.
It gave me feels.
I saw a whole bunch of crap trailers, and I never saw that one.
Yeah, he really captures the essence, I think, of the Prime Minister. So that one looks good. I kind of want to see that one.
Nolan's direction on Dunkirk, the way he cut it together, while it is confusing at times, by the time it does all start to mesh, it makes sense.
It kind of doesn't. It kind of doesn't. There's some parts you just like how they got to that, and they're just like, he was there. Now we're to this, and it's like it's nighttime. It's nighttime, daytime going on. I'm not a fan of the way he cut that. And it's the way I put it is like I knew what he's going for, but for being a period piece with a focus on the people themselves, it makes it difficult to actually focus on them. And I also felt there should have been more going on. Like there wasn't enough of the little ships. There wasn't enough of the other ships.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't enough.
It had to show the desperation a little more.
There wasn't really that desperate. I mean, yeah, it was
No.
bad, but this is supposed to be, there's the Luftwaffe were supposed to really be pounding the hell out of them. Were there strong emotional moments to it? Yes. It was kind of far and few between.
There was a lot of Hollywood in it. A monstrous amount of Hollywood towards the end. I will spoil a little of this. There is a scene in the film. Now, my wife and I are both aviation buffs. I know how planes are flown. I have never flown one, but I have studied enough and read enough, and I've read every I've read the pilot's manuals and all that kind of stuff on getting your license. I just never actually gone and done it. There is a scene in that film where an airplane does things it should not be able to do.
Yep.
I don't care how good a pilot you are. You're on the coast with an in-wind coming off the water. There is no way that plane could have done what it did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is no way. The amount of time involved that went on in a way this airplane maneuvers, while it was very Hollywood and it was one of those moments, it is still just it takes you out of the film just a bit because you're like, yeah, what the heck just happened there?
It's like, no, I think a better way for them to have done that was you actually had, others show up.
Yes.
Just to show that it's more than just these three.
I don't know the history that well of Dunkirk because, again, it was the British and the French, and to be honest, when they teach World War II history and when you go back, it's a lot of American stuff. That's where Americans, we learn the American side of things.
Depends on your
Well,
class.
Americans have the mistaken belief that we won the war for ourselves.
Shut up, we won the war.
I found there was a line in that film that made me go, what?
Which line?
The line about the new world coming to save the old?
Oh, he said that. He actually said it.
Did he really say that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Churchill
I was
actually said it. It's in his speech.
What the?
Yeah, Churchill was always looking to the U.S. to come riding in, like the cavalry.
Okay. Which we kind of did right off the bat, but then we started getting our asses.
No, it was more like, here, have some guns, have some stuff. All right, I guess the Germans are about to drag us. Oh, where's the Japanese? What the? Okay, hold on. We're gonna kill everything.
Day of infamy.
We're going to hit both of you because this is nonsense.
I would recommend, if you're a history buff and a war film buff, I would recommend Dunkirk. Even though at times it can be confusing, once you catch on to what's going on, it makes it a little easier. But Nolan has a habit of doing that with his films.
And there was a guy who was, Jolly Jack, who was British. He also complained about that, and his complaint was actually, he's got a valid point about this. Is like, there wasn't as much, which, we already discussed. There should have been more going on.
Yes.
And the confusion of how he cut it is like, he's doing it just to show that, hey, look, I'm doing something different and unique. I can't argue that point.
Well, he was trying to show different perspectives.
But I think it was done poorly.
Okay.
Personally, I mean,
It was unique. It was definitely unique. I can't say if it was done poorly or not because I kind of got with it once it started to roll. It threw me. I was like, what the hell just happened? About 4 or 5 times. I was like, what just happened?
Well, yeah, again, I mean, let's go back. It goes back to it being a period piece with a focus on the people themselves.
Yes.
And honestly, I just don't feel that you don't connect with them.
No, you don't. There's a lack of connection.
They're just faces.
The desperation of those, was it 400,000 men?
Mm-hmm.
Stuck on this beach, literally surrounded on all fronts. And they had a narrow window in the channel to get from one to the other. I mean, like they said, you could almost see home from here. And the desperation side of it was not played up enough.
On the interesting side of things, though, they actually did have some of the original little ships in the film.
Really?
Yep, there's still some around. I don't know if the main one we saw in the film is one of them. Probably wasn't. It was probably the long shot where they showed up. A lot of, a few of those were probably the little ships. Original little ships, I should say.
I will say, I mean, being the aviation buff that I am, seeing those World War II era planes, I don't know how much was CG, how much was actual airplanes in the air.
Actual airplanes, all of them.
They were all actual airplanes. That was an awesome, because it was just like, oh man, this is Spitfire. Oh, check that out. That's a Messerschmitt. I can't remember the number on the actual Messerschmitt.
909.
That was not a Messerschmitt.
It wasn't.
Nope, it was a disguised aircraft to look like a Messerschmitt.
Oh, they did a good job.
Oh yeah.
I know the bombers weren't accurate.
The Heinkel?
The German bombers were slightly off.
Yeah, HE-111.
No, the
that looked right to me.
Yep.
I have that model.
Either way, it was just fun to watch those planes in the air. It really was. And I think they did a good. That was one thing I did enjoy. Whenever you see a war film with aviation, they're very Mary Sue. Like they always hit everything they shoot at. They always do this. They showed the desperation of, oh, come on! It's like you're flying an aircraft at top speed, a propeller-driven aircraft that doesn't maneuver like a jet. It doesn't maneuver as clean as you'd like it to, and you're trying to line up a shot. And they showed that. It was like, and it wasn't like the constant barrage of there were the time shots and all that kind of stuff, and the quick bursts and stuff. That was like, okay, that was cool. That's the way. I mean, if you watch the old footage, they didn't just sit there and unload until they emptied their cannon.
Oh no, they would have been. That's a good way to put yourself in the water.
Yeah, I'm watching it though. And it's like, I've played many flight simulators. I'm like, lead your damn target.
Well, imagine how hard it was to. I mean,
I know,
you're flying over the ocean.
I know it's totally much harder than that, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like there were moments of like I would have been firing right now.
Yeah, lead your target. But he had to be careful not to shoot down his wingman.
No, he would have been fine. There was moments he literally could have fired, not
True.
touched his wingman.
True.
But it doesn't matter. It
was a unique. It was a nice time. It was nice to see that instead of that. Oh, I mean the flying ace that never misses, the Poe Dameron as it would be. Seriously, what do you take out 15 ships and troops at the same time in that one scene in Force Awakens?
He was busy.
Yeah. He was a flying ace like 6 times over in that one little scene.
Well, maybe,
I noticed that.
Maybe Poe is doing what the guy in the manual for the special edition of X-Wing was doing.
I guess. I mean, come on. Even Luke Skywalker, with the Force, even though he wasn't trained in it, missed.
Well, in the special edition manual for X-Wing, there's a story that's told of it's the main character. He's a pilot, and apparently he learns he can use the Force, and he discovers this, and he starts influencing the TIE pilots to fly into his sights.
I don't remember that, and I've played
either
those
way.
games
Poe was
extensively.
very that was the have not to do a aerial scene. It's like at least miss one. Come on. It's like, let's see, I shoot this guy out, and then I do a near physics bending loop to come back in and take the guys out on the beach, and then go back up and shoot the 2 TIE fighters here, and then loop around, miss this building while aiming and taking out another TIE fighter. Really?
Yeah, I know.
In a spaceship that's not meant for atmospheric flight.
There was a more advanced X-Wing.
Either way, dude. It's
And
an
we
X-Wing
actually
fighter.
and we saw them in Rogue One. They did rather well.
That's true, they did.
Better than TIE fighters, oddly enough.
Well,
The
it's
TIE
'cause a
fighters
TIE-
should have been, pushed around all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, their solar panels are nothing but giant sails to any kind of crosswind.
Yeah, as a
Well,
matter
that's
of
the
fact,
big
in the books they covered that thoroughly,
Yes.
especially in the X-Wing
Crosswinds.
series
Oh.
books.
Having having written aircraft flight and technical manuals for business jets at my former employ, I've learned to understand a lot of this, even though I knew some from my study of history, especially the naval aviators of the Pacific Theater, like Butch O'Hare.
Well, kind of back to the film. So, what'd you rate it?
On my end,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably give it a 4, just because of the history side of it. Maybe a 3.5, 3.5 and 4, in that range, somewhere in there. I wouldn't go all the way up like 4 or 5. I say it was a good film. I enjoyed it. It was lacking a little bit, but it was still presented in a way that I found enjoyable.
I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay, you're right about the same area. Yeah, 3.5, 7. It's a 7, 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10. It's approximately the same. So I mean, is it something I would recommend to somebody if they want to go see a historical piece film? Oh yeah, most definitely. Is it getting all the accolades that people are throwing at it right now? Is it worth all that? I don't know.
Yeah, that. No, I don't think it was. It's with the hype. Good. Yeah.
Are there better World War II films? Oh yeah,
Certainly, Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan,
Tora.
Tora's fantastic.
heck, even the Green Berets was Vietnam. Never mind.
Nope.
Tora is amazing.
All's Quiet on the Western Front, World War One.
There's two versions of that, so it depends on which one.
The Longest Day.
Pearl Harbor was not good. I was quite disappointed, especially
Pearl?
since they didn't have any F4F.
There are
mean
15
Pearl, right?
minutes of that film that are worth watching.
Yeah.
That's kind of like Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan, the first half hour of that film is probably some of the best war footage ever put on.
It is
Screen?
PTSD inducing.
Yes, it really was. I mean, when I saw that film, I was shooting a film in New York, and all of us got together, and the producer of the film had scored some tickets to this screening that, even though the film had been out, the screening was going to involve a bunch of World War II vets. And they were in there, they had special seating and everything. We had to go sit in the nosebleeds in this theater. But these guys were bawling during that whole scene.
There were a lot of guys, who went through it, and it's just like flashbacks.
One of my favorite World War II movies has to be To Hell and Back.
Hacksaw Ridge was good, though.
Starring Audie Murphy as himself.
Yeah.
I have yet to
I've
see
never watched
Hacksaw
that one.
Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge was good. I would rate Hacksaw Ridge better than Dunkirk, personally. Not because it's got that American bent, but I think the way they focused on it, on the character, was you got a good connection with him. Was much better.
I
You were
always
in
find
there with him.
myself. I always find myself watching The Longest Day.
The Nimitz goes back.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know that one. That was.
I love
Final
that film.
countdown.
It was
I
kind of
love that film.
I love the premise of it.
Yes.
And
I think and I'm sorry, it's funny to see a bunch of A6M Zeros get chased down by F-14s.
It's not really a chase down. It's more like
The moral dilemma that Kirk Douglas, as the captain, was put under of, do we change history? Do we stop bombing of Pearl Harbor? Do we stop World War II right here and now?
from the
Pacific
position he
Theater.
took, he was in a way he was absolutely 100% correct. His oath is to protect, the United States, and that doesn't matter the time frame. You just do it.
Yep.
But
It's like,
if
had
he
he
does
done
that, there wouldn't be a Nimitz.
yeah, how many people would have just disappeared?
That ship would have vanished. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize how, even though it was horrific, the amount of the technological advances made in that short period of time to naval ships and aircraft, and basically just military stuff that then trickles down into civilian life. That a lot of stuff would not exist had it not been for the stuff that was started during World War II.
I like to remind people of, technologically, during the Second World War, you look at the Mighty Mo and the Essex-class carriers, plus, the bombers, the P-51D front, we were still running steam locomotives as our primary mode of transportation.
I should also point out could run, that were powerful enough at the time that just ran off of diesel or whatever.
Oh no, they had diesels. They were diesel switchers there. The M10,000 was out in 1937 for the Union Pacific Railroad. The F and E series of engines were actually put on halt in production because they tried to convert as much steel to the war effort. In fact, the Southern Pacific actually de-skirted a lot of their premier passenger steam engines to give the steel to the war effort.
As a side note, Art here is our, he likes trains.
I have a degree in history and I'm a rail fan. It happens.
The degree in history.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the horrors of war and I think even more so the exploration of space and the desire to do that, we would not be having this podcast right now.
Well,
indeed,
different things may have happened. I mean, we may not have had the Rust Belt happen as quick. I mean, we, really boosted our industry, modernized whatnot, and are producing pretty much more than everybody else in the world for at least a couple decades, and then 70s, late 60s, 70s collapse of economic whatnot, and the Rust Belt begins to grow, etc., etc.
Without the war, we may never have fully pulled out of the Great Depression.
True.
No, in that case, yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct. Without the war, we'd not have been out of the...
And without the war, we wouldn't have gone to space.
We could have, now if you think about it, because we were already feeding Britain and Russia with, foods and materials and things like that. So we were pretty much out of the Depression. It's just we didn't have as much of a recovery.
But without the technologies,
if we didn't actually go into the fight.
Yeah, without von Braun and the defeat of the Nazis and the rocket scientists being basically grabbed and brought over here, the space race would not have happened. We would not have the technologies that came from that: microwave ovens, computers.
We still
all
had
that kind
Goddard
of stuff
up until 45.
True, but there was a lot of, the push to get to outer space after the war, from the 50s and 60s, all through that to the space race began alongside the Cold War. That the advances there in that 20-year time frame.
It just makes me think
insane.
Of it just makes me think of a song. I can't remember the guy who, Tom Lear, I think, or something like that, way back, made a song about Werner von Braun. It's like, the rockets go up. Where do they go? Not my department, says Werner von Braun.
But with that little history lesson, we will bring this episode of the Geek Easy to a close. We're done. Short, sweet, to the point, and we talked about quite some stuff.
Sweet is a misnomer we don't usually use.
No, we don't.
So
it is.
Go away, all of you, even you in the corner over there.
Oh.
Put the cat down.
What are you doing with that lobster?
No, not you, the one behind you.
Oh, right now there's somebody freaking out. There's a dude in Colorado looking at his computer going, whoa, man. Sorry. But we'll be back next week. And again, keep an eyeball out for our interview with Doug Drexler on Star Trek and Star Trek Discovery. And we touch on a couple of other little
same
things.
Geek time, same Geek channel.
Yes, we will be back. Little nod to Adam West.
Well, you used to say that.
We did.
Adam West, Adam West.
So it's a shouting match. Oh! Okay, so wow, that's really weird. Adam West, name from King of the Hill. He sells propane and propane accessories.
I sell propane.
I'll tell you what.
Dumb it, Bobby.
With Star Trek Las Vegas happening.
That boy ain't right.
And of course, we're not there because we suck. There should be quite a bit of Star Trek news coming out in the next 4 or 5 days.
Here's the first piece. Dayton Ward is writing a Discovery novel.
There you go. Dayton Ward, writing a Discovery.
We're expecting a big announcement in regards to Star Trek Online, so...
Yes.
Tomorrow,
so there should be some Star Trek Online news. There will be Star Trek Discovery news, I'm quite sure. And then something we didn't touch on, because I still think it's a bunch of hoo-ha and crap, the Nicholas Meyer Khan series that they're talking about right now, or whatever.
Well, you and I both have a source that says it's crap.
It's bupkis. Total bupkis. It's yeah, well, I think everybody's losing their mind over Discovery, and those select few who are out there literally chomping at the bit and sweating because Discovery isn't on the air yet, please calm your passions, because if the show sucks, we're going to have to drag you away from anything that could harm you.
Calm the calamity that is your memories.
Yes. All right, but on that, we will say goodnight, and we'll be back next week. Say goodnight, boys.
Goodbye.
Good night, boys.
We're out.
Good.